The Little Mermaid. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 6 beautiful daughters. But this king wasn't the ruler of people. His kingdom lay beneath the waves, where fish shimmered like precious stones. The young princesses' mothers had long since passed away, and they had been raised by their grandmother. The youngest among them was the most beautiful, with golden curls cascading down her shoulders. The girls loved the tales their grandmother told them about the world above. In these tales, there were strange creatures called humans who walked on 2 things called legs. The Little Mermaid wanted to see these things for herself. "You must wait until you're 15, her grandmother said. "Then you can go and see for yourself." When the eldest mermaid came of age, she surfaced and told her sisters about the interesting things she had seen. Years passed, and finally, the day came when the Little Mermaid could also rise to the surface, to the world of humans. Now she could see the world she had always been curious about with her own eyes. As she swam toward the surface, the sun was setting. A ship had dropped anchor nearby. When the Little Mermaid surfaced, she saw the handsome prince on the deck. Of course, the prince didn't know that someone was watching him, let alone that the princess couldn't take her eyes off him. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and the ship began to sway in the rising storm. Before long, the sails were torn, the mast was broken, and the ship sank beneath the waves. The Little Mermaid saw the prince struggling in the water and rescued him just in time. She embraced him, carried him to the shore, and laid him down. When morning came, the prince was still asleep where she had left him, and the Little Mermaid waited by his side, consumed by sadness. From that day on, the Little Mermaid rose to the surface many times, hoping to see the prince again. She couldn't bear it anymore. She decided to seek counsel from the Sea Witch. When the witch saw her, she laughed. "I know why you've come, Little Mermaid," she said. "You want to become human and walk on land, thinking you'll be closer to the prince. But there's a price to pay, you know." "I didn't know," said the Little Mermaid, "but I'll pay whatever it takes to become human." "I want your voice," said the witch, "your beautiful singing voice. If you give me your voice, I'll turn you into a beautiful young woman with 2 legs. But remember, the prince must love you with all his heart and marry you. Otherwise, you will turn into sea foam and vanish forever." "Quickly," said the Little Mermaid. "I've already made up my mind anyway." With that, the Sea Witch gave the Little Mermaid a magical potion to drink. When the Little Mermaid stood before the prince, he was enchanted by the silent girl and decided he couldn't do without her. The Little Mermaid, too, loved the prince more and more each day, but the prince never proposed to her. His parents pressured him to find a bride. Finally, the prince decided to meet the princess of a nearby kingdom. He took the Little Mermaid with him. The poor girl was in agony. When the prince met the princess of the neighboring kingdom, he was captivated and immediately wanted to marry her. The wedding was magnificent. Everywhere was covered in flowers, silk, and jewels. Everyone who came to see the happy couple was filled with joy. Only the Little Mermaid was silent. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. That night, the Little Mermaid stood on the deck, gazing out at the dark waters. As dawn broke, she resolved to become sea foam. But she didn't fall into the sea. Instead, she found herself flying through the air, surrounded by golden lights dancing around her. "We are the daughters of the air," they said. Now you will be happy with us." As the little mermaid soared toward the sky, she looked down at the prince's ship and smiled.